The band was being requested in nightclubs across the UK by people of European heritage, born and raised in the UK, so that people who thought of themselves as white could dance to Nigerian songs and learn about Nigerian music and Nigerian culture and Nigerians and Nigeria. As the economy of Nigeria was rebased in the same year, and it became recognized as the richest country on the continent, the children of white people were actively trying to learn how to be more Nigerian because it was cool. In the middle of the 2000s, the cultural environment of the UK was racist. It had been this way for several centuries. But in the UK, the particular flavor of the racism at this time was to be denigrating towards Africa and people of African heritage, and not directly hateful. Everything African was considered bad, less than, and Africans were all poor and considered less capable than white people. One of the consequences of this was that the children born in the UK of African parents, citizens, felt the need to call themselves Black British to escape the denigration that happened when they called themselves Ghanaian English, Zambian Scottish, or Nigerian Welsh. They were made ashamed of their heritage and encouraged to mock it, so that UK society accepted them. But white people, on the other hand, who were the majority, had been told that white people were better than everyone else, and that other people must recognize this. White people were demanding that people of African heritage recognize their self-declared superiority in very strange ways. Initially, they tried denigration and mockery, but when that failed, they tried intimidation, bullying, and sometimes outright attacks. All to get the person of African heritage to behave subserviently towards the person of European heritage and treat them as white. However, Nigerians coming to the UK were not doing this. This is because Nigerians have no prolonged history of living in a society where it is normalized that people will try to bully, intimidate, and socially exclude you, and then call the motivation for this behavior something special, racism. No, Nigerians saw these behaviors for what they truly are. People who are insecure, who then get jealous, who then try to push away their envy and embarrassment at not being considered better than, by bullying and intimidating people, ganging up together to try and make other people feel socially excluded. You see, white people want us to think about this in a very particular way. They want us to think that the white person believes that the African person is less than them, that they are prejudiced, that the issue is racism. Because this framing creates the question in everyone's mind: is this African less or not? Because actually, they don't believe this at all. The white person would love their unpleasant, rude, insulting behavior to be treated as merely the bad way of getting the African person to acknowledge their inferiority, rather than admit to themselves that their behavior is a defense of their humiliation at an African being revealed as superior. As I was saying earlier, Nigerians were not accepting this fake story of whiteness. White people are intrinsically better. They saw this behavior for what it was, having seen it before in their own culture. They did not accept the idea that it was anything special, racist. They just treated it as insecure jealousy, and people then supporting each other's bad behavior. The fact that this happened so often in the UK, Nigerians just considered this as the weird thing these white Oyibo people do. So, Nigerians and other Africans were refusing to accept this narrative of whiteness. And Nigerians in particular were very loud in their refusal. Nigerians' self-assurance around wealth and success naturally expresses utter confidence that the narrative of whiteness is a lie. Because visiting Nigerians had already experienced directly and indirectly a lifestyle and a standard of living that was better than what they were experiencing in the UK. UK people trying to bully Nigerians into treating UK people as better than them and trying to show off that the stuff that UK people had was better than what Nigeria and Nigerians had was clearly, laughably untrue. White people did not like this because this didn't match the lie that they had been fed of how significant they were and of how Africans thought that white people are significant. Nigerians not recognizing this made them feel inadequate and ashamed of themselves because they weren't just being told that they were wrong. They were being proven wrong with evidence, often physical evidence, like cars, Nigerians driving the latest models, outfits, Nigerians dressing up for work and to church, and celebratory events, Nigerians throwing lavish parties. All things that UK people couldn't afford and be better than. In 2005, Two-Face Idibia won the MTV Europe Music Award for Best African Act for his song African Queen. This song and the album that it was part of, Face to Face, was played all over Europe by the Nigerian diaspora and became extremely popular worldwide. This was the beginning of Nigerian culture becoming popular, with people in the UK who did not have any African heritage. Over the next few years, Nigerian culture became very popular amongst the African diaspora in the UK. Both direct and indirect, the Afro-Caribbean community. People saw themselves in the presentation of Nigerian culture, could remember and be proud again of who they were. Nigerian movies, music, and the selling out of UK venues by Nigerian comedians gave confidence to Africans to demand that they were called Olufemi by their work colleagues and not Dave. People were encouraged to call themselves Jamaican British without the shame that the UK media was trying to put on them about who they were. And even foreigners in the UK, Eastern European countries, such as Poland and Romania, gained self-confidence to stop naming themselves George and Lizzie and to reclaim Gregory and Jadzia, the names that their parents had given them. Nigerian culture and the confident expression of it was changing how people in the UK valued foreign culture, particularly African cultures. In 2012, the song Oliver Twist by the Nigerian artist D'banj debuted at number 9 in the UK music chart listings. This changed things. The band was being requested in nightclubs across the UK by people of European heritage, born and raised in the UK, so that people who thought of themselves as white could dance to Nigerian songs and learn about Nigerian music and Nigerian culture and Nigerians and Nigeria. As the economy of Nigeria was rebased in the same year, and it became recognized as the richest country on the continent, the children of white people were actively trying to learn how to be more Nigerian because it was cool. This was a direct threat to the narrative of the significance of a distinct group of humans called white people and the non-existent thing of white culture being better than African cultures, countries, and people. Nigerian music was becoming a thing for white people, which encouraged Ghanaian music and culture to be a thing, and Tanzania, and Zambian. It enabled South African culture, the African South African culture, to be rediscovered by people of European heritage, and Cameroonians to express themselves in a language that is not their own, French, but make it into something that is their own and be recognized for it. The control of the European 1% over the people that they had named white people was being eroded as they kept admiring these Africans, nodding their heads to Nigerian music whilst commuting to work, and reacting to songs by African artists to get popular on YouTube. Today, they copy Nigerians on TikTok by singing Nigerian songs because Nigerian culture is so much cooler than white culture, which is not and has never been in reality a thing. The European 1% had successfully convinced people of European heritage. Let's call them pink people, because they never came up with white people themselves. It was pushed on them to market the 1% as significant. Pink people had been convinced that the dark brown people came from a country named Africa. But Nigerian music in the ears of pink children and culture from countries across the continent of Africa being shown on the smartphone screens of pink teenagers was ruining the narrative of whiteness. So, whilst Nigerians were getting carried away with their popularity with foreigners, the European 1% were directing the music production companies to fight back against this branding of African countries and cultures as being individually distinct. Fix this branding problem, because we know these sounds are distinct and separate, but we need a convenient branding to call all of them one thing, so that we can then name all of this to be culturally one thing. Oh, and make sure you pick a term Africans have used themselves, so that it doesn't look like we came up with the idea. If pink people start recognizing the distinctiveness of African cultures, then they might start to recognize their own cultural distinctiveness and might recognize that being white people is not really a thing. Naming the surge in musical expression from West African cultures and the diaspora, particularly the London diaspora, as all one thing, might just help the European 1% to get pink people to treat African culture's music as all one thing. Afrobeats. Because artificially distorting the scale of word maps to help pink people think of an entire continent as a single country named Africa won't work anymore. But maybe, just maybe, if we can convince them African cultures can be reduced to a single word, Afrobeats, then maybe we can convince them that they are still one monolithic people, white people. And we can then continue to convince them of their specialness in comparison to anyone else that we say isn't in that group, and keep them believing that they are white and not like everyone else. Then we will get to decide who they are and control them. Afrobeats is a lie that helps whiteness be a thing. Nigerians must call Nigerian songs Nigerian, Ghanaian songs Ghanaian, Cameroonian songs Cameroonian, Tanzanian songs Tanzanian. Nigerian songs being Nigerian was what sold them to the world. Our cultural distinctiveness was what made people admire us. Yemi Kuti has suggested that we call this particular musical style Nigerian Afropop, not Afrobeats. Because the music of Wizkid, Techno, and Davido is their own. Naming it Afrobeats mixes it with Fela Kuti's Afrobeat and reduces the cultural distinctiveness. So, regardless of the intent by DJ Abrantee, who first came up with the term, Afrobeats supports the European 1%'s goal of lumping all Africans together. Because if they can't call us a single country anymore, then at least they can reduce our musical cultures into one diluted, unthreatening thing. Afrobeats. Please support Nowogh Talks by hitting the like button and subscribing. Hit the notification button below and also leave a comment so that we can continue the discussion.